Yes, and two simple words. The next time a meeting starts to go sideways, those two words can cool down the whole room. They diffuse tension. They make people feel heard. They come from the world of improv. My guest today teaches Fortune 500 companies how to use those two words to better lead their teams. His name is Will Dennis. He's the founder of Unscripted Productions, an applied improv studio that trains teams at companies like Johnson & Johnson. Will joins us today to teach you how and when to use this magic leadership phrase, why the best leaders use it to facilitate their team's greatness, and a simple framework you can take into your next meeting. I'm BJ Kramer, and these are Leadership Blueprints. Welcome, Will Dennis, to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Will, Unscripted Productions, give us the 30-second elevator pitch on what Unscripted Productions is.
So we're an improv studio. We're based out of Bucks County, Pennsylvania, and we offer classes for the community from ages 8 to 80. But the crux of what the work that we do is we go into organizations and teach people how to be better teams, how to be better leaders using the ideas behind improv.
Talk to us about what improv is. Somebody's never heard of it before. What is it at the core?
Yeah, so I think most people would be familiar with, or at least heard of it through things like Whose Line Is It Anyway? Second City out in Chicago. Curb Your Enthusiasm is like famously always improvise. But when we talk about improv, what we're really talking about is just a willingness to discover something alongside someone else that you didn't realize was there before. And a lot of times, the results of that discovery tend to be hilarious and surprising and things like that. But we try to avoid saying like, oh, performing without a safety net or things like that are terrifying. Because once you sort of learn the principles behind improv, it's one of the safest things you can possibly do to yield creative results. So essentially, it's about discovery.
One of the safest things you can do to yield creative results.
Yeah.
That should be your tagline.
Yeah, I should add it, right? We just discovered it. Finally, a tagline. But yeah, it is. And it goes against, I would venture to guess most people listening, if they hear improv, they get a little nervous,
totally.
Start sweating, right? We always, when we go in and we work with teams in the corporate world, we kind of lead with that. We tell them like, look, at least half this room is trying to plan an emergency phone call that will get them out of the next couple hours, or like your back starts sweating. And it gives permission for people to honor that fear.
Yeah.
And then we do the work of sort of myth busting around that and demystifying what improv actually is.
I want to go right into, I want to get to your story about how you led there, but as I'm about to give a speech tomorrow night, and like, it doesn't matter what the audience is, how comfortable the topic, there is a level of like nervousness to any sort of public speaking. And you hit on the idea of like, in sports, we call it a safe place to fail. And when you do this, when you're breaking the ice with a group, like, eventually you can create the camaraderie that everybody's scared to death to do this. And now you're creating a safe place to fail. How do you take that out of that classroom and then people are confident applying it elsewhere?
You got to get teams to buy in. And one of the reasons most teams buy in after working with us is they get to experience risk and reward in these really small increments as they work with us. And it's in the context of fun. So the brain's learning a little bit better because the brain loves to have fun. And as it's having fun, it's kind of like, oh, I just took a chance and everything was okay. And then we build. So it's like, oh, I just took a chance. And not only is it okay, like I'm actually being celebrated right now. Oh, I just took a chance and everyone in the room is having a good time. So like you create those new pathways of safety, and then you can start using a lot of what we do is we introduce a vocabulary through what we do, and then teams have that. So you start building safe spaces outside of our workshops in your teams by having that shared vocabulary and being able to say things like, hey, when we get into this, like, I think we can probably come at this from a yes and perspective right now. Or like, hey, it feels like we've built a whole cathedral. Can we just go back and start with some bricks and see where it takes us? So once you have that shared language, it opens the pathway for a little bit more safety in the context of teams.
And I mean, to me, just using that language feels less combative and tense and more creative and shared problem solving.
Yeah. So even just the phrase yes and is one of the best ways to turn down the heat in a conversation. So even if a conversation is starting to be combative, if you introduce yes and, it's going to level the playing field and bring everyone's temperature down in the best of ways. And it's wild how it happens, because what it does, we talk about yes and as acceptance and contribution. And what it really is it gives people a space to feel seen and heard. So even if someone's hot about something, you're honoring the fact that they're upset about it merely by starting with yes.
Right.
So what you're saying is like, I see you. I recognize that you're coming from this place. It makes total sense to me. And I want to offer my perspective on this. As opposed to, yeah, but you said this last time, right? That doesn't get that. It's just punch for punch, or worse yet, no. But just immediately doing that. And it doesn't mean you're conceding. It doesn't mean that, you're a yes man, so to speak. It's just cool.
I'm starting a fundraising effort to get Will into Congress.
It's like the one place that's most needed.
You're going to go train every congressional representative across the country. It sounds like a good place to start.
If only.
You're the founder of Unscripted Productions, right?
Yeah.
Talk to us about your journey. I think you came from an education background.
Yeah, so an education background and a theater background. So like this is the Venn diagram right there. It's me living in the middle, trying to sort of get folks' attention. But so, classroom teacher. I still teach by day and grew up in the theater throughout high school. Worked as a professional actor for a short time when I was first out of college. And
anything we would know?
No, I was in Elf at Walnut Street Theater the first time they did it. They'd just done it again. And then a couple of flyers, not even commercials, but like the promos they put on like the big screen to get you to buy stuff in the store. So I was on one of those. Theater was my background. And I started teaching improv as a survival job, right? Nobody makes money in the theater.
Yep.
So I had to do something else. And on Monday nights, I was teaching improv for a theater in Ambler called Act 2 Playhouse. And as I was doing, I just kept realizing, like, I don't even know if I'm that good of a teacher, like improv. Like, I don't know if those people are leaving better improvisers, but they were all leaving a better version of themselves. They all were tapping into something through this class of just, I think, being seen, being heard, self-acceptance, all of these things that we don't practice. And as adults, we don't get the opportunity to do this. And it was like therapy for them. Well, it's an egoless form, which is awesome. Yeah, they were just, it was an invitation for them to kind of return to who they've always been, but they lost because of, play, right? The minute recess ends, we start becoming this different version of ourselves. I just saw this today on social media. I spend too much time on there, but
the infinity scroll gets us all.
It was something along the lines of, someone's like, I'm convinced we are born knowing who we are, and then throughout our lives, adults talk us out of it. So like to get the opportunity, and improv does this for a lot of folks, to go back to who you were, and then all of a sudden you're like, like I just dampened that voice for a long time, and now here it is back through the gift of play and acceptance.
That's pretty awesome. So how did it start? Like I love a good founder story. How did you make the pivot to say, you know what, I can do this?
So my wife and I, we were living downtown Philadelphia, both working in theater. She was a stage manager. I was an actor. And when we knew we wanted to start a family, we came back to Bucks County. Put us in the middle of both of our families. And there was nothing. There was nothing. And I was like, man, maybe we just start something. Like maybe we just teach these classes, like whatever it's going to be. So we did. This was before we had kids. It was like a year before we had our oldest. Thank goodness, because I don't think it ever would have started. So we did it. We like rented a space, this tiny little space in the middle of Newtown. And we borrowed money from ourselves and then promised ourselves that we would pay it back right away and never do it again, which we've been able to do. And we started teaching classes. And then within 6 months, this is my favorite part of the story. Within about 6 months, a buddy of mine from college reaches out to me on LinkedIn. And he's like, hey, see what you're doing. Do you have a corporate program? And I was like, yes.
Yes, and.
Yes, and. Yes, we absolutely do. And I'm going to build that between now and whenever you need me to come in. And it was about 4 weeks out. And I was like, we'll figure it out. And we did it and it worked. And like, that was the only validation I needed. I went, great. Like, not only are people craving this, companies are craving this too.
Yeah.
And at that point, you would see it. Like, Google had been using Improv in there. So I knew that it would work. I just didn't know if it would work under my
What
guidance.
was your inroad to get it started?
Yeah. And was like, that whole thing, like, am I good enough to
Imposter
do this?
syndrome.
So yeah, it worked. They brought us back. And once I knew that, I was like, all right, let's just try to do this as much as possible.
All right. I'm going to throw a curveball because I hooked on to something you said. You borrowed money from yourself a year before you're having a kid. So many people talk about like ego and adults forming us into, so many people have a little bit of a creative entrepreneurial aspiration. How hard, I know it's your passion, but anything outside of regular work hours, anything that's extra requires a little extra chutzpah to get it going and to really grind it out, to get it to proof of concept phase. Talk to us about that year.
It was a grind for a year. And I didn't see my wife most evenings because I was out. And at that point, it was just me. Like, we didn't even have anyone teaching for me. It was just me teaching these classes. So that was a grind. And then it's me building this program to see if it works. That's a grind. I'm teaching full time at this point. So it's a lot of, I've got lunch and a 43-minute free period. Is there anything I can accomplish in this time to use that? And then once I get home, it's taking that time. And then once our oldest was born, then it's like, it's out of control because you don't even know your own name for a couple of months. And it's trying to figure that out and figure other things out. And that's when I started leaning on other people and we started bringing folks in who I trusted. But like, it's so hard at that point too, because it's like having two babies.
It's your baby, yeah.
Right? So now I got two, and I know my wife I can trust with one, but I have no idea who to trust with the other one.
Maybe that was actually the critical gift, was that you cared more about the actual live baby. Yeah. That like, you're like, all right, if I'm going to drop one of these, I'll let this person, I can't.
Yeah, thank God that's the case too. So yeah, it just became, it's finding those pockets of time. And it's something that I'm still learning that.
You still have the day job.
Still have the day job, yeah. So the school I work for is amazing, and they scaled back some of my sections so that we could still do this.
That's great.
And I work with them. Like, there's a partnership there because a lot of the work we do is with educators, and it's like, oh, great. Well, how can you bring some of the stuff that you're learning outside here? And then school becomes a lab because it's like, hey, how can you test some of these things out in your own classroom so that you can then take it to other schools and teach teachers how to use it? So
there's so many good stories in this because your ability and their ability to think win-win, as opposed to like, how dare you moonlight?
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, and it has turned it into a partnership in the best of ways, and recognizing, and I give them a lot of credit by going, you're probably a better teacher because of what you're doing with Unscripted. And I know I'm better at what I do with Unscripted because of my time teaching.
You shared with me an article you wrote, and I think people all know the Philadelphia Eagles and my love for the Philadelphia Eagles. But Nick Sirianni did not go through Unscripted Productions.
No,
he did not get improv training
yet.
Yeah.
Growth mindset.
And but.
Nick, if you're listening, our classes run Tuesday evenings. Welcome to join.
But using that article as kind of a framework, what did you see in his leadership style that you said he's doing improv and he doesn't even know it?
Yeah, it was like right away. I was like, this is why this worked. Like, that's why, for my money, that's why they won the Super Bowl this year. Was he did an incredible job of selfless leadership. If you look back at some of his pressers that year too, everything was deflected to his guys, everything. And like, people used to scoff. Remember, he used to be like, yeah, I love all my guys. I'd be like, what is this? This is supposed to be football. And he's like, he understood the power of creating a space where people feel valued and people feel seen. And he understood what he had. Like, his job was to facilitate everyone else's greatness. His job was not to necessarily even be great or worry about being great.
Right.
He knew that he could be great by facilitating everyone else's greatness.
True leadership.
Yeah. And self-knowledge that can then turn into the amplification of other people's self-knowledge. And I think he had a great sense of meeting people exactly where they were instead of where he maybe wanted them to be, and going, great, I'm going to talk to Saquon Barkley differently than I'm going to talk to A.J. Brown, differently than I'm going to talk to Devontae Smith. But like, I'm going to talk to each of them individually so that they know that what they bring to the team is essential. And we're going to make space for all of that. And that's yes ends. Like he's yes ending everyone on that team by accepting them, radically accepting them, and then contributing whatever he has to offer to help them get greater and greater and greater. So that was the one thing. And the other thing, we use a phrase called bring a brick, we'll build the cathedral together. And
Say it again.
Bring a brick, we'll build the cathedral together.
Gotcha.
So it frees everyone up from thinking they've got to have all the answers or that it all is on their shoulders. And it empowers them to know what their brick is. So it requires self-knowledge and be like, what are you bringing that this team could not function without? And then once you know that, then you get to build something together. And it's not prescribed. It's not like, Sirianni came in and said, all right, it's got to look like this.
Right.
He went, what bricks do we have?
Yeah.
All right, which ones fit great next to each other? All right, cool. Now that those are there, which ones can go on top of those? Okay, cool. Now we're starting to have a foundation. Do we go up or do we go out? All right, we need to go a little bit wider because we want to go higher in the long run. And then it just allows that to happen. So much of the work we do it's human-centered. So everything is about the human being. And I think that's what he did, is he just created a space and removed his own ego and took the shots for everyone else on his team and then allowed that team to grow in a way that was organic and honest and built on bricks instead of anyone's one cathedral.
Do you have any corporations or leadership teams that you're comfortable sharing, like they continue to come back because of what they're getting out of it?
Yeah, so I can share. So we do a lot of work with pharma. J&J is one of our best clients, and they continue to bring us back. And a lot of times what's great about them is that we'll work with one team, and then they'll bring us back and be like, can you work with 4 of our teams? Because what they're recognizing, and I guess this is a testament to the success of our work early on, is it's not enough just to teach a team how to work well together. It's cross-team alignment.
Right.
So especially when you're client-facing, that client may be dealing with 5 or 6 different teams. And if they're getting a different story from each of those teams, that gets real confusing for the client.
Yeah.
So not only how do you work together as a team, but then how's that alignment from team to team unified as well? So that's a lot of the work. They're a great client because we had the benefit of they had brought someone in, at least in innovative medicine, for a keynote, and that person introduced the concept of a yes and mindset. And we had worked with a small team over COVID online and went well. It was great. But it was about 5 years later, the leader of that team was sitting in the keynote, heard yes and mindset, and wrote on her pad, I need to call Will Dennis. So 5 years later, and that's the hardest part about all this is the patience of these things taking development. But then 5 years later, I was the first person that she thought of. And that's always been my goal. Whenever someone hears improv,
they think
I'm the first person that they think of.
Yeah, that's great.
So this is another one. I don't know if I can share this company because I might be revealing some of their secrets, but I always thought this was cool. We work with a company that does an emerging leaders program, like many do. And part of it is they put folks through a simulation. And this is just to get into the program. So you apply, you go through a simulation. There's auditors that are observing, whatever. And they will watch. And if they see someone taking the back seat to assist someone else and to make someone else look good, that person gets into the program. And if they see someone who's trying to boost themselves, that person's not getting into the program. So they actively look for, we call it make your team look good, but we also say have a willingness to hold the spotlight instead of trying to stand in it yourself. So they look for spotlight holders and they go, that person's a leader. They're getting into the program. So I love that story. And we didn't find that out until after we did the workshop. I was like, this is great.
That's great.
Bring us in for that program, by the way.
So let's talk to the audience about what a leadership development offering looks like from you guys. What's the ideal setup? Do they come to you? Do you go to them? Talk us through the entire program or offerings.
Yeah. So, and this is great because we just recently started shifting how we style the program. What's most important is sustainability and the learning transfer. And that won't happen if it's 365 days since the last time you saw us. So what we've built now, our ideal program, it's 5 modules essentially over a quarter usually. And we'll come in for the first one. So it'll be like a 3-hour introduction workshop, which is mostly this idea of the yes and mindset. And then the middle 3 will be virtual. So there's virtual touch points. And what we do is each module is a different one of our principles. And then we go back in for the 5th one, which is, it's really collective contribution and impact. So it's like, all right, we're going to wrap this all up, but we're also going to look at, now that you've done this, what's the impact you're going to have outside of this space when you go back to your team? So it's a hybrid model because, to be honest with you, like improv works better in person space.
I'm sure.
Always. But the learning can happen in between. So that's when we go, all right, we're going to do almost like micro learning sessions throughout. And then we also build in, this is for learning transfer, like little touch points. So like you'll collect bricks along the way, leaning into that metaphor of like always being aware of what your gifts and talents are and how they amplify your team. And then there's peer check-ins between some of the micro learning too, so that you can hold one another accountable before you sort of finish and go back to the team. So that's our ideal model that we're like just transitioning into now. Most of it up until this point has been half day or full day. And we almost, I would say 90% of the time we go to the client, unless occasionally they're looking for an offsite or it's part of their offsite. And we're like, oh yeah, sure. You can come to us, or we've got partners in our area so that we can be a piece of a full, more robust offsite for them.
I'm a big believer. I use the phrase systems beat seminars. Like if I go to a seminar, I get excited about the topic, I learn, and then I go back to work, and like you don't have the transfer. Yeah. Whether that's time management, whether it's leadership, it's like, what is the structure for me to continue reinforcing and practicing this habit? And if you don't have those follow-ons, it's like you just lose it. Yeah, and especially when you're trying to build some level of culture change management. Like, hey, if I get a couple of early adopters to this, if I can, they start to influence, they start bringing that vocabulary into meetings, into discussions, into problem solving sessions. That sounds powerful.
And that becomes our dream, right? It's almost like a train the trainer, so that it just permeates and it changes all that culture. You're spot on though. Like this is the biggest thing. And this becomes a little bit frustrating for me, is experiential learning is the key to all of this. Like you could have the most inspirational speaker that you've ever seen in your life, but to your point, you will be excited, and maybe for like 72 hours. Right. But then you're like, I don't even know what to do with this excitement anymore. Yeah. As opposed to when you get to experience it and experience it incrementally, then you know exactly how to start behaving in those situations. Yeah. Because it doesn't matter. We can all learn in a classroom or in a lab or whatever it is. It's when you get back into high stakes situations, are you kicking into those things that have now become habit? Right. Or are you going back to the old behaviors? So I think, I don't know if you see this too, like right now in the world of adult learning or learning and development or talent development, it is behavioral change is the real shift.
I think change management is everything. Yeah. Joe Ehrman wrote a book, Inside Out Coaching, and I deal with youth athletics, and he says that the most powerful words he can hear in a locker room is, that's not how we do it here. Because now it's no longer being dictated from on high, it's being policed inside of so a permeable culture is policing itself and reinforcing the positive direction you're trying to take it. So I'm always looking at my organizations or any organization that I'm interacting with from that lens. It's like, the leader is actually supposed to work themselves out of their job, right? Like eventually a team should be able to perform without the leader. And that to me is the true testament of leadership.
Yeah. Yes. And right. Basically, we work with organizations and we work with educators.
Yep. So talk to us about the education.
And when this is, you just tapped into sort of the why of those two things and putting ourselves out of a job. So the goal in education is to put ourselves out of a job.
Totally.
So we work with organizations and almost all of them identify a lack of human capabilities right now. So we are AI crazy, not applied improv, artificial intelligence. And there's so many good things about it, right? I'm not anti-AI, but where my radar goes up is I go like, if we don't balance that with human capability, we start working for the machines at some point, right? We're throwing the baby out with the bathwater a little bit because we've forgotten about the quote unquote soft skills of teaching folks how to communicate with one another, how to listen to one another, how to problem solve, how to think critically, how to analyze, how to do all of that.
Not only that, and then we are highlighting the highlight reel of adults that can't do it either.
Yeah, right? So it's a systemic problem, right? I see that and I'm learning from that when we talk to clients and I'm going, oh yeah, because we're not building any of this in schools, right? Schools right now are all focused on AI literacy. It's like, do you know how to use the tools? Do you know how to use the tools? You're going to have to know how to do this when you get into the workplace. But the amount of leaders I talk to on this end that go, you can use all the tools you want. At the end of the day, you're going to have to walk into a boardroom and you're going to have to lead when there are no answers.
Yeah.
You know?
And the nature of leadership is not only problem solving, it's also communication.
Yes.
And if I don't have the EQ to figure out how to yes and you while you are no butting me, I'm going to have a hard time leading.
People aren't trained in how to lead human beings. They're trained in how to perform as an employee. And then you make your way up and that shifts. But we don't spend any time training that. So I go, all right, well, let's train it down here. And then ultimately, right, we'll never put ourselves out of a job. There's too many people on the planet. But that's the idea. If like we start with education and we build these human capabilities in this generation as they come up, then in theory, they will be able to communicate. They will be able to lead. They'll be able to inspire and they'll be able to be the person who makes decisions when there are no answers.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
It's funny because we started out with the improv examples. I just lost the show, but I used to watch it.
Whose Lines Is It Anyway? Yeah.
And like, it's comedy, but the EQ that comes from being able to connect and vibe off of and be creative and listen. I mean, to me, it's amazing. I'm frustrated that I have not exposed myself to it.
Well, and it's like, I think you're tapping into something there too, because think about when we laugh. We laugh when we feel safe and we feel accepted. If we're guarded, we're not laughing. I think comedy is so many things, but it's an indicator of a safe space.
Yeah. I had a couple of other questions. You've referenced the brick, and we were talking before we got on about the yes and exercise. Talk us through these icebreakers. For the sake of people listening, we're not going to actually do it because I don't know how well it'll transfer to a audio. It may be pretty funny to watch me stumble here on YouTube. Talk us through those, and then maybe if it's possible, anything that a coach, a teacher, a leader could maybe use in their next meeting as an upfront. I'm totally putting him on the spot right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
In youth sports, I'm on a board, and the coach who I had on recently, CEO and head coach Paul Donovan, talked about creating a safe place to fail. And I think too often in our work, you want people to have a stake in the outcomes, and you want them to be bought in, and you want them to take their job seriously without us having to take ourselves so seriously. So I'm curious if there's any, little hacks for how leaders can be setting the table to be a little bit more improv-ish.
I'm going to give you a little activity that we do. We do it almost every engagement, whether it's a class at our studio or if it's, a boardroom at a Fortune 500. We call it mind meld. And the way that it works is in a circle. Most of what we do is ultimately in a circle. So You're standing in a circle and you have 2 volunteers come into the middle of the circle. And you count to 3 and they free associate the first word that comes to their mind, just one word. So both of them are going to say one word at the same time. Okay. And then they'll step out of the circle. And at that point, everyone in the circle is trying to figure out what one word can connect the 2 words that they just heard. But they don't say any of it out loud. So when they think they have the connector word, they're just going to step into the circle and wait for someone else. Same thing. Count to 3. Each of them says what they think the connector word is. They're either going to say the exact same word at the exact same time, or more likely, they're going to say 2 new words. They say 2 new words. Now, everyone on the outside of the circle is going, how do I connect these? What is the one word that connects these 2 new words? Okay, so the goal is always to find the one word that connects those words and then to say it at the same time as the person that goes into the circle with them. So for instance, okay, you and I are
going to go in a circle.
Yeah, we could go into
a
a circle. Yeah, let's try it. See what happens. It probably will phase out because there's only 2 of us instead of a whole circle. But we can do the initial example, right? So if we say, all right, I'm going to count to 3, and you're going to say one word that comes to mind. First thing that comes to mind. Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Football.
T. Cool. T and football. So now, in theory, there's a circle of about 12 to 15 folks. Everyone's going, how do I connect T and football? How do I connect T and football? What's one word that can connect T and football? T and football. T and football.
You ready?
If I think I have it, I go in, right? So T and football. 1, 2, 3. Touchdown. That's a good one. So now there's a circle going, how do I connect stateside and touchdown? How do I connect stateside and touchdown? And you keep thinking until inevitably 2 people will walk into the circle. And they'll say the same word at the same time and everyone will erupt.
Yeah.
It is like it's like a high that you didn't even know existed, and you don't even know why.
I was getting excited that.
Yeah, right? But this is the thing I love about this, and this is why it creates safe spaces, helps create safe spaces, is it's never about the prescribed right answer. It's about getting to the same place with someone else.
Right.
And I think that's ultimately what teams are about. If you just set out, look, you've got goals, you have to have those goals. But if you set out every step, it has to be like this, and this with the prescribed right answer. It doesn't give any space for people to go, let's see if we can just get to the same place together.
Yeah.
And how are we going to do that? And like you laugh as things go wrong, and then you get excited as things go right. And this is one of those examples of just experiencing risk and reward on the smallest scale.
Yeah.
And then incrementally going up from there.
Well, I think you were saying it earlier before we got on, that this whole idea of that little bit of risk and then the dopamine hit really from like, hey, I did it. It's like these like little stepping stones. And when you're doing it, it resonates with me. How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, I mean, the easiest way is our website, unscriptedproductions.com. And then you can email me, which is just will@unscriptedproductions.com, or find me on LinkedIn. I'm pretty active on there, and I try to share as much on there to make people better teams, better leaders, better people.
Better version of yourself.
Yeah, that's what it is. We always say, like, that's our promise. We don't make promises about improv. Like, we don't promise anyone they're going to go on to Saturday Night Live or a career like that. Yeah. But we promise at the end of it, you'll at least be 1% better than you were when you walked into work.
Yeah, it seems like such a great life skill.
Yeah.
And like, again, not one that people are exposed to.
Like you joked about Congress, but there's so many skills.
I'm not joking.
There's so many
Take it to the bank. If this goes viral, I am starting a fundraiser to get Will in Congress for education.
Oh, geez. And it's just diplomacy and listening and just having conversations in a way that you honor the other person's dignity instead of trying to squash it. It's a difference maker.
All right. We got a little bit of improv to close this out. It's actually just some rapid fire questions.
Cool.
If you could have dinner with 3 people, dead or alive, who would they be?
First would be Robin Williams. Fascinates me.
Stud.
I think he's just so talented, but also I'm so interested in the
Demons.
the nuance and the pain that's behind the comedy, that I would just love to sit down with him. There's a guy, Adam Grant, teaches at Wharton, and everything he writes, I feel like he's having a conversation with me. So like he's one that's living that I'm like, I read his book, The Outsiders, How Nonconformists Changed the World.
Yeah.
And that changed my perspective on the world. And from that point on, if he writes something, I'm reading every single
1,000
word
true
of it.
fans. You're one of them.
Yeah, right. So I guess that might be a waste because I feel like I already had dinner with him by reading the books.
Reading the book. Yeah.
But nonetheless, and like this one's, people will eye roll at this, but my wife, I get dinner with her every night, but there's nobody I'd rather eat dinner with. I run everything through her as far as a business partner goes. And she's not my partner, but like in life she is. So every decision goes through her. But like she has been my North Star, my compass. So yeah, I get it every night. But if somebody was like, who do you want to have dinner with tonight? It's probably still going to be my wife.
That's
so
great.
She's the best.
Mother's Day is already over. He is not doing this for any self-serving
that's in the past
reason.
right there. Yeah.
You hit Adam Grant. Any other favorite books in your library?
I'm in the middle of a book called Theo of Golden right now, which is fascinating. But because I'm in the middle, I don't know where it's going yet.
Yeah.
But I'm really intrigued by that. We had talked about this too. There's a great book, The $1 Trillion Coach, about Bill Campbell out in Silicon Valley. And I just love everything he stands for. I mean, his big thing is build the human, not the skill.
Yeah.
And that just encapsulates everything that we do. So if you have not read that, it has nothing to do with making $1 trillion. It has everything to do with how to lead humans.
Right. He wasn't the one that made the $1 trillion. He helped out a lot of other people make a lot of money.
Yeah, that's the one that I read most recently that has stuck with me.
That's a good one.
There's also a book called The Go-Giver, Bob Berg, I believe it is. And it's such a cool business book because it's told through it's storytelling.
Yeah.
So it's a narrative and it's fascinating through character, but it's 5 really incredible takeaways from that book too.
There's a part 2 to that. The Go-Givers Sell More.
Oh, nice. There's my next
great.
book right
there. You go.
Yeah.
Favorite quotes?
I'll give you, this is kind of a quote, but it's a word. So there's a book called The Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. John Koenig wrote it. And I discovered this word, I think through Adam Grant, and then went back to the book. And the word is sonder, S-O-N-D-E-R. And the definition is to become fully aware of the fact that every person and random passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own. And I think it's an invitation to deep humanity that...
Interesting.
Yeah. One of my students said to me, they're like, you should just get tattooed on you. I wander, I ponder, I sonder. And I was like, yeah, all right, fair enough, right on the forehead. Yeah, but that word, ever since I came upon it, that has stuck with me as a mantra of sorts.
We didn't touch on what age group do you teach and what topics?
Yeah, so I teach 12th grade world religions and discernment. So at an all-girls Catholic school. So it's wild because I'm the last thing before they leave the little bubble, so to speak.
Yeah.
So to have the opportunity to, talk about a class in empathy and EQ and acceptance and understanding of other people and sondering. It's like, it's a full year of sondering.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I often say our class is about figuring out who you are and then how that person fits into a global community, which is awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What did we not cover today that you want to close us out with?
I think the biggest thing is like improv's not scary. We alluded to it, but so many people will just hear it. And because we're conditioned as human beings to have control over every element of our lives, we assume that it's going to be scary when we're a little bit out of control. But the rewards that come from a tiny little step will change the way that you see the world. Once you experience yes and, not just hear about it, but like experience it, you won't be able to unsee the opportunities for it that exist in your day-to-day, whatever it is that you're doing. So it's safe. Improv's safe. That's the most important thing to remember.
Will, Thanks for taking the time. Unscripted Productions, appreciate what you're doing. Leaders out there, the call to action is for you to explore this. If you're in the local area, or I think you even do it on a hybrid or remote delivery, I think you should look into it. We are certainly looking into it. Everything he is saying is leadership business and about making our teams higher functioning, but even more important, helping our team members be a better version of themselves. I haven't heard anything he said that I'm not convinced it's going to add to performance, to culture, to team. So I think we're crazy not to explore it. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So much fun.
It was.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody, if you enjoy the show, if you're liking the content, please do us a favor. Like it, share it, subscribe. We're on YouTube now. You may be watching this on YouTube. Look up my friend Will and Unscripted Productions. And I find the best way for you to share this or for us to get traction is for you to send this directly to somebody that you think might appreciate it. And maybe that's the person that's responsible in your company for allocating training dollars. Till next time, have a great week and a great weekend.